This is a photograph of me and Mr. Nelson Mandela. When I first met this man, my life changed. It was a private dinner. About 18 people was in the room. I was invited to be a part of that dinner by my Prime Minister. And when I shook his hands in that photograph, my whole body shook because his hands felt like rock. And I was startled. And he smiled, Mr. Nelson Mandela. And then we sat down at the table to eat. He was 2 chairs away from me, so he leaned over and he says, "Young man, are you okay?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "No, you're not okay." I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "No." He said, "I guess you're wondering why my hands are so hard." And I was embarrassed. I said, "Sir, I guess so." He said, "Well, for 18 years I was given a hatchet and a maul, and I had to crack rocks, and my hands became a blister, and then they became a complete callus. In prison, I had to crack rocks for almost 20 years. And then he said, this is the price of freedom. I never forgot that moment. I walked away from that dinner with a prayer. My prayer was, "Oh Lord, make my hands hard." Let me pay a price for greatness. Here's what he said to me that night. You want to write this down? He says, true leaders do not seek followers. Followers are attracted to true leaders. True leaders do not seek followers. Followers are attracted to true leaders. This is why great leaders never look for followers. Dr. Morris Cirillo did not look for you. You were attracted to this ministry. And some of you have been a part of this ministry for 10 years, 20 years, 15 years, and you've been faithful because somehow you saw a genuine man who has your interest as priority. This is leadership. Leadership wants to meet your needs, not you meet their needs. He also said this to me. He said, leadership is not a right, it is a privilege. People don't have to follow you. So you must appreciate them when they decide to follow you. Respect them. Build them. Invest in them. Because great leaders always respect those who submit to them, not abuse them. What a man. The greatest failure in leadership is unsuccessful success. What I mean by that is that we are weak in mentoring other people. One of our weaknesses is that we are more concerned about protecting ourselves from other people rather than developing other people. This ministry is a great ministry because it wants to develop people. I look at the building that is being constructed. Morris Cirillo World Outreach, he called it the Legacy Pavilion. It's a place where people are trained. After he's gone, he'll still be training people. His books will live beyond his grave. His ideas that God gave him will live beyond the cemetery. I wonder, what are you doing to preserve what God has taught you? Who are you producing? Life is about producing other people. I want to say this and write this down, please. The greatest obligation of true leadership is to transfer your deposit to the next generation. That's your greatest obligation. Leadership success is measured by the success of your successor. No matter how great you may have been, If you didn't produce a successor, you are a failure. This is true of parents, preachers, and politicians. If you are a parent, my question is, are you mentoring your children? Not just parenting them, but mentoring them to preserve what you've built. Can you turn all that you've built over to your son and he will not sell it? Did you train your daughter to appreciate the value that you've built for the last 50 years? Legacy is about preserving all that you've accomplished through other people. In other words, success without a successor is failure. No matter how successful you are, if you didn't produce a successor, you failed. And Jesus knew, I have to produce successors. He spent 3.5 years training those 11 men. When he left, his work grew in his absence. Isn't it incredible that after he was gone, his organization expanded? I wonder if your ministry will die when you die, or will it expand because you train your replacement? There should not be fight for the spoils when you die. There should be a transition, because any leadership that only serves its generation is destined to fail. I discovered something about God. God is a generational God. Can you write that down somewhere? What did I say? Write that down. You know, when I read the Bible, I'm amazed. When God speaks to us, he is not talking to us. He's speaking to our loins. If you read the Bible carefully, God kept on speaking to people's loins. He said, to your seed after you, after your seed after you. He wasn't talking to you. He's talking to the future generations. So when God gives you an instruction, that's not for you. It's for the unborn. You become a steward of God's assignment. God is a generational God. So if your vision dies with you, you failed. Legacy is about living beyond your grave. It's about producing people who will become greater than you. You know why you're quiet? You didn't think about this stuff. And you are getting older. What are you producing? Who are you producing? Have you identified a young woman or a young man that you will spend the next 10 years pouring your life into? Will you train them into what you know and take them to meetings so they can see and be exposed to what you are exposed to? You know, Jesus was incredible. He trained his disciples at different levels. He had 12, but he had 3 different groups in that 12. He had 9, he had 3, and then he had 1. And depending on what he wanted to mentor them in, he would separate them. You remember one time he went on the Mount of Transfiguration. Only took 3. Why? He wanted to expose them to that meeting he had with Moses and Elijah. And those 3 men saw Moses and Elijah. And they saw Jesus in his full glory. And then he said, when you go down, don't tell anybody what you saw. Why? That's only for you to experience right now. He was mentoring them. One time he wanted to raise a little girl from the dead. He put everybody out and just took 3 with him. And he said, I only want you to see how to raise the dead. Who are you mentoring?